Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder we're having a look at another vehicle which is in the files, and this one is the American H-34. Now why is it not a surprise to see this aircraft? Well, it's pretty much as simple as this. We have the French H-34 coming out. It has access to rockets, ATGMs, and of course the lower caliber machine guns, and, well, it is technically an American aircraft, so seeing the American version of it isn't really a surprise. And something that I would like to thank first of all, so thank you to Dog for Life for finding some of the pictures on it, and also thank you to Dog and others for doing some research into what some of these armaments are, because one of the main differences between the American H-34 and the French H-34 are its armaments. I also covered the French H-34 on the dev server, so if you want to have a look at its armaments or how it's going to play, please refer to those videos instead of this one. This one is going to be mainly focusing on what this thing can carry in the in the files right now, and also, you know, the interesting stuff we may see coming from it. Another qualifier I want to make as well is that it's kind of weird how we haven't seen anything about this, whether it's a dev blog or whether it's some extra information. It's just kind of been plonked in the files, and the one thing I do want to say is we did just have the Sea Voyage event, which was for the Leningrad destroyer. A few people have thought that this thing could be in the same vein for a helicopter event, where, you know, you could get this thing for yourself, some form of premium helicopter. Now, I think that's a good shout. I personally would be a little bit at least against that, because helicopters are generally quite new to the game. And also on top of this, I know a lot of people who either dislike helicopters or have not really got invested in them yet, and I think it might be worth waiting a little bit to, you know, do something like this. This could just come to the American tech tree as well. That is something that could happen, so therefore we'll treat it like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look in the asset viewer. We're going to discuss the different weaponry types that this thing has, because it has a buttload of them, and also talk about some of the other key features. So the first thing that is interesting about the American H-34 is that it does have a fully HD cockpit, exactly the same as its brother on the French side of things. So there are actually two versions of the H-34 in the files for the Americans. There's the H-34 and then the H-34 cockpit. The only difference between them is that the H-34 cockpit has its fully modeled cockpit. That's it. So you can see that it's HD here, whereas the other one, I'll just show you just for clarity's sake so you can show the difference. Here we go. You can see that it's non-HD. So it looks like when the American H-34 helicopter does come into game, it will have a fully fledged HD cockpit. Now, what you see before you is a multitude of armaments. One of the things that has to be known, since I know a lot of people probably don't use the asset viewer, what it does is it puts all of the armaments that you can take on one plane at the same time, or one aircraft at the same time. So what you're seeing before you is not something that it can carry. What you're seeing is all of these secondary armaments that it can carry. So a lot of these will be mixed up, like maybe you can take some of the guns on the left and some of the rockets on the right, but we're going to go through each of the ones just to kind of give you an idea of what each of them are, or what they all represent here. So the first one we're going to actually deal with is this thing. So a lot of people have speculated that this might be some kind of anti-ship missile or some kind of massive rocket. Well, none of that is the case, but you can understand why people may get this idea. The first thing is it seems to have some kind of rudder on the back of it, then it has an exhaust through the side of it, but the idea that it's some kind of missile falls apart when you look at the front. The front, as you can see, has two guns sticking out of it is the best way I can put it. And from looking at the caliber of the gun, if you compare it to something like this, one of the 50s on the side or the 7.62s, it looks very much reminiscent of a 20mm. Now, one of the things that was really hard finding out about this machine is what the hell is this? And it seems to be a it seems to be a gun pod which houses two 20mm guns in it, and we actually found it in a picture. So here's a picture of the US Army, H-34, showing that it obviously did exist. It was an American helicopter in the first place, and this is that weapon system which we just talked about. And here is the description of it. And also alongside of it, in this picture, is an ATGM. And we don't have any of them on the model right now, so showing that it could carry ATGMs, but right now that's not part of the weaponry. On the left side, which is this one, there was a huge modified pod Mark IV, which contained a Hughes Mark 11 gauge 20 by 110 USN cannon. In order to mitigate the effects of the recoil and reduce the flare, compensators/dampeners were installed on the sprint of the two weapons. So this was tested at Chesapeake Bay Test Range between the 1960s and 1961 summers. So this shows that this did exist on this specific helicopter, and it is a dual set of 20mm. Now, this Hughes Mark IV pod, because the pod itself is a Hughes Mark IV, and the guns inside are the Hughes Mark 11. So this Hughes Mark IV pod was used on a multitude of aircrafts for aircrafts on testing and probably some other things as well. And I found a report where they tested these pods on A4s. So I'll leave a link to this in the description so you can have a look at it, see what the pilots actually thought about it and any of the issues that these gun pods had, because it seems like quite a lot of them had issues, especially when it came to firing the guns, which is probably why they were never used in mass service. But on this one here, on the H-34, it was definitely at least tested on the machine. So that is the mystery of the big tube. It's two 20mm. Alongside it, there are also two 20mm on either side of the helicopter. You can see them right here, very much a long barrel, and I'm pretty sure they are this machine here, which is the 20mm M3 automatic gun, and you can tell by this area here and also the slats at the back. So this is basically this area that you can see before you, and push with basically just an extender on the barrel to, I don't know, make it so it looks slightly different, at least when it comes to this. On top of this, you have a bunch of different 50 cals which are ladened all over this thing, and then you have some 7.62s down here, which I believe connect to the weapon system we see on the bottom. You can see these right here. This is a system which this machine used. It was called the TK1 weapon system. It was two 7.62mm machine guns which were fixed forward, and then 19 shot 2.75-inch rocket launchers below. So you can see that you have the 7.62s and also the 2.75-inch rockets. If we have a look here, there are the 7.62s, and here is the rocket pod. So overall, those all make sense to me. When it comes to its weapons. Then you have some standard, will either be AP or maybe even M8s. My guess would be AP rockets on the side. And then, if we look at the back here, there is some kind of rack, which to me looks like it's designed very similarly to the one which is sat here, so it can carry these rockets that you see. And according to this dev blog, if I can find it somewhere, they are HVARs, I believe, or are they just not in this one? It doesn't matter, whatever they are rockets, and they are sat right here. You can find out what they are on the dev server video that I did on the H-34. So it has access to them as well, and it also, as I said, has access to more rockets on this side. And if you look, this one's a little bit harder to see, but you can see up here with the clamps, and then easily on this side, that it has access to the bombs as well as on the bottom here as that right there, which is something that the H-34 French version does have access to. So this thing has a multitude of weapons on it. It just has a ton of different armaments that you can bring alongside of it, but no mention of ATGMs. Now, unless you can see right here, this area in the front, There is some kind of weapons holder which does not have anything connected to it. This could be something like this, which it looks very similar to, that it could carry for the ATGM. So this machine, which is why it kind of makes sense if it would be an event vehicle, because you've got to think, if you want an event vehicle, you want it kind of open to everyone, and you want also to give it all the separate armaments so they can try it out. It makes sense to me that, this would be it, because it has access to tons of different rockets, 50 cal, 7.62s, the rockets on the bottom, it has the ATGM holder, it has access to bombs, it has a weird and wonderful pod on it, it has pretty much everything. So that to me is looking ridiculously amazing. Now, on the other side, this could just be another American helicopter added to the tree, very similar to how the French have the H-34 as the starter, and then you have the Alouette as another machine, which is exactly the same BR as this. This could be the same thing with its statement, because even with all of these extra guns on it, I don't think that increases its BR at all, because the only ones which are going to be useful are the ATGMs, which you can only carry 2 of, at least according to this design here. Some things to also note. There is something about the doors being able to open, open, close, and all of that. And you can see that here are the doors from the inside, right? So you've got this door here, then you've got this door here, which is unfortunately kind of closed right now, but this one is open. What is interesting about these is you can actually find pictures. Oh, this is the Mark 11 gun pod with the Mark 4 cannons in it. You can see here that you could actually stick guns out of the side of this while the door was open. So you could also have a configuration of a man or a woman being sat inside, shooting the gun down, hitting everyone else. That could be something that could come to the game, and it seems like there is, at least on this file, it could be done. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it will be done. I'm saying it could be done, maybe in the future. But right now, this is looking like another American helicopter coming to the game with a ton of separate armaments to grind out and have some fun with. Most of them, in my opinion, won't be very good unless we're talking about anti-helicopter duties. Going around with this 20mm is cool, but I don't see how it will be useful, and we'll be already adding to probably the best tree when it comes to helicopters in game with another solid addition. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.